Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay, guys. Preemptive like here, Ryan Shirley video. Top 10 places to visit in the Alps. Ryan Shirley, just such an amazing channel. The photography, images, 10 out of 10. If you've watched me watch any of these Europe videos, travel videos, you've probably heard me bring up the story of me, my dad, and my brother riding around through Europe, and that's because that's the only story I have, you know. But going from Munich, outside of Munich, driving towards Innsbruck, Austria, and then to I forget where in Switzerland. Uh, uh, I'm drawing a blank, but we went through Switzerland and then back into France, and it was the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen in my life. Um, I've never been to the Rockies or so this was my first time seeing a giant mountain range with just it was so incredible. I'm excited to see this video. The images are always amazing. Let's get started.
What's up, guys? My name is Ryan, and I spent the last 3 years exploring the mountains of Europe, and I want to show you my favorite places. So here is my European Alps top 10. I have to say the Alps are my all-time favorite region in the world. There's just something magical about the massive mountains, incredible landscapes, and history that exists there. It's something that I hope everyone can experience sometime in their life. So for our first destination, we're gonna head to possibly my favorite mountain ever, Seceda. Now it's located in the Italian Dolomite. I remember the first time I saw a video of this mountain and I couldn't believe it existed. The green grass slopes contrasted with the jagged mountain ridge, often covered in clouds, makes one of the most beautiful landscape combos in the world. Now to get to
Beautiful and
Seceda, I
terrifying
took two
at the same
gondolas
time.
up the mountain and made it to the top. I remember the first time I saw the mountain, I couldn't believe my eyes. The clouds covered half the mountain, making it one of the most beautiful views I've ever seen. I was so freaking stoked when I got there. I just ran over to the mountain. Me and my buddy George spent all day exploring the area. We got to this incredible vantage point that looked like an ancient jawbone of a dragon. I felt like a dragon was gonna come out of those clouds. Places like this really spark your imagination and make you feel like a kid again. That will forever be one of my favorite travel experiences, and I hope everyone can witness the power of Seceda at least once in their life. Alright, now after exploring the mountains of Italy, we're gonna head to Switzerland to visit the village of Grindelwald. When you think of Switzerland, this is it. It has the picturesque Swiss chalets surrounded by mountains covered in green grass with the backdrop of Mount Eiger. I was lucky enough to live in Switzerland, and on my last week living there, I did a road trip to Grindelwald to go see what the hype was about. Anyways, I wanted to do a road trip to Grindelwald to
Oh, is that a glacier? It's just I interrupt. Driving through Switzerland, there wasn't a it was all beautiful. It didn't seem like there was a single place where it wasn't just jaw-dropping, amazing sight after amazing sight. Sites that if I were to see them anywhere else in the world, I would have been like, okay, that's top 10 I've ever seen, or that has to be the most beautiful place in this world or that world. And it's just everywhere in Switzerland seems to be that way, at least where I went. And that's what I remember.
go see what the hype was about. Anyways, I wanted to do a hike that would give me a good view of Mount Eiger, but I didn't really know the area well, so I just saw a random peak and decided to hike straight up the mountain. I didn't really have much of a trail and I was just wearing my Vans, but I kept hiking up it, and after about an hour I made it to the peak and I was rewarded with some of the most amazing views I've ever gotten. I could see all around me and I had the whole place to myself. I mean, it was just a special moment for me because it was one of my first travel experiences, and there's just an incredible feeling of doing things all by yourself. Anyways, Grindelwald deserves all the hype because it is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Alright, so after Grindelwald, we're gonna head over to Germany to visit the Neuschwanstein Castle. Hope I said that right. I have to say, this is one of the most beautiful castles in all of Europe. It's nestled at the very tip of southern Germany, right on the Austrian and German borders. Neuschwanstein Castle is placed perfectly in the mountains with a phenomenal 360 view of the Bavarian Alps and the town below. The construction of the castle began in 1869, and the castle wasn't open to the public until 1889 when King Ludwig II passed away. Fun fact, he only spent 11 nights there. Kind of crazy when you think about that. Anyway, the castle receives over 1.4 million visitors a year, so it's definitely a tourist hotspot. I mean, I just can't get over the beauty of this castle. It looks like something straight out of a Disney movie. Alright, so after Neuschwanstein Castle, we're gonna head over to Slovenia to visit another fairy tale destination, Lake Bled. It's located about 40 minutes outside Ljubljana. Lake Bled is one of Europe's most scenic lakes. It's famous for its island that is right in the center of the lake, and there's a little church on it. If you're in Ljubljana, make sure you make a pit stop at one of Europe's most beautiful lakes. Slovenia is also home to incredible mountains. The Julian Alps are where Slovenia's tallest mountains are located, and they remind me a lot of the Italian Dolomites. I haven't been to Slovenia yet, but I'm going to make sure it's one of the first places I visit when I can go back to Europe. Alright, anyways, after Slovenia, we're going to head over to the Austrian Alps. Now, I was lucky enough to spend a few days last summer road tripping Austria, and I was shocked by the beauty of the country. From its churches to castles to endless lakes, Austria had it all. One of my favorite places I went was the town of Gosau. It was just this little town that I stumbled upon that had one of the most incredible backdrops of the nearby mountain. I mean, when you think of the Alps, this was it. It had the
Look at the grass too. Like, even if you take out just
churches, the green grass, the mountain. I mean, it had it all. It'd be so cool to live there. If you like driving on some crazy roads in the mountain, I'd recommend going to the Grossglockner High Alpine Road. It's the highest road in Austria at 2,504 meters. When I was there, I entered the park during sunrise. It cost me about $35 to go in. Anyways, I drove up the road. It was a little crazy, but not too sketch. And I was stunned by the view of the surrounding mountains. You can also go to the pasture.
Oh my God. I remember, so I never went on that road, obviously, but I remember some of the roads were terrifying. Okay. They're terrifying. Maybe I'm a little more terrified by that stuff than most people, maybe, but if your brakes stopped working, you're effed. You're screwed. You are dead a million times over. It was so just like knowing that your life 100% relied on your brakes in the car. And
Riese Glacier, which is just a short drive from Grossglockner. It's the biggest glacier in Austria, and when I was there, I found this path that took me down to the bottom of the glacier. I loved the lake at the bottom. The contrast of the gray lake against the glacier made for an incredible sight. After the glacier, we're gonna head over to Austria's most picturesque town, Hallstatt. Now, this town looks like it should be in a fairy tale. It was once a salt mining town, but now it is Austria's most popular tourist attraction. It's just such a stunning place. Alright, so after the Austrian Alps, we're going to head over to the mountains of Appenzell. Now, located in eastern Switzerland, these mountains quickly became one of my favorite places I've ever been. It's home to massive, jagged mountains that look like something out of Lord of the Rings. Now, to get up to the mountain, I took a gondola up to the top, and then I hiked about an hour to reach a hotel on the top of the mountain. Now, me and my buddy Danny decided to stay the night at this hotel so we could watch the sunset. Well, now we got all settled in, and then we ventured off to get the perfect spot. The clouds were covering the sky, so we only had about 15 minutes of sunlight to get the shot. Now, my buddy Danny, he whipped out his FPV drone and got some of the most incredible shots I've ever seen. I mean, I was just standing on the peak, and you find the drone over me with the sunset in the background. It goes down as one of the top 5 sunsets of my life. Just so freaking epic. Dude. I just couldn't believe the beauty of these mountains. I mean, it's what dreams are made of. Another really cool thing about the area is there is a cliffside restaurant and a beautiful lake at the bottom. I both failed to go to them because I was just too focused on getting the shot on those mountains, but next time I go to Appenzell, I'll make sure to visit. Alright, after the mountains of Appenzell, we're gonna head over to Sassolungo. Now, this is located back in the Dolomites, and it's one of the most impressive mountain groups that I've ever seen. When I was there, I took a one-man chairlift up to the top, and I was just instantly blown away by the views. I like to call the place the Black Gates of Mordor because that's what it reminded me of when I was.
It kind of does. whether black
I like
gates
the
or
color
not,
plays.
but it does look kind of like the terrain that Gollum, Sam, and Frodo were kind of climbing up.
The black gates of Mordor, because that's what reminded me of when I was up there. I felt like I was going to run into an orc or see a Nazgul flying around. There's a little refuge at the top, and it's just a great place to go climbing or explore. Now, when I got down to the bottom, I drove around the area to see if I could catch the sunset. I was able to get one of the most dramatic shots ever as the sunbeams were shining through the mountain. I mean, it looked like something out of a fantasy. It was so freaking incredible. I drove back to the base of the mountain and I slept in my car right there. All right, after Sassolungo, we're gonna head over to the French Alps. Now, this is one of the areas that I haven't visited yet, but once I can travel to Europe again, it's
These are where the tallest mountains are, right? Mount Blanc and Matterhorn, aren't they in the
going to
French?
be one of my first destinations I go to. Now, the French Alps are home to Mount Blanc, which is the highest mountain in all the Alps at 15,774 feet. It's kind of funny because the border between France and Italy passes right through the summit, making Mount Blanc both French and Italian. Now, one thing I think that is so cool about Mount Blanc is the glaciers that run down it. I mean, it would be incredible to go hike those. I also really want to explore around the town of Chamonix. Probably said that wrong. If you guys know any other cool places in the French Alps, comment them down below. I'd love to go check them out. All right, so after the French Alps, we're gonna head over to the top of Europe to visit Jungfraujoch. Now, this place looks like something out of a James Bond film. So me and my friends decided to take Europe's highest train to go to the top of Europe. Now, normally the ticket during summer is around $240, but we got the early bird special, so it was half off. So definitely consider that when you're buying your ticket. Anyways, we got on the train and went up the mountain. Halfway up, we made a pit stop and we were able to see this glacier. There were also some mountaineers taking a little break before they ascended back up the mountain. Anyways, we got back on the train and we went up to the very top. When you get off the train, you get into like these cave tunnels and you'll go walk around. It was kind of confusing for me. We made it out to the ice plateau and were able to get an incredible view of the glacier below. After, we went to the top of the Sphinx Observatory to get some more amazing views. One of the coolest parts of Jungfraujoch is the glacier tunnels. You're able to walk through these tunnels carved right out of the ice. Surprisingly, it wasn't too cold and it wasn't slippery. I think they put on some like sticky stuff on the ice so you don't fall. While a trip to Jungfraujoch is expensive, I definitely recommend that everyone try it at least once in their life. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable. While we're still in Switzerland, we're gonna head over to the magical town of Zermatt. Now, Zermatt is home to possibly the most iconic mountain in the Alps, the Matterhorn, with a height of over 14,692 feet. It's one of the highest peaks in the Alps, and it makes almost a perfect symmetrical.
Look at that. That might be one of the best Ryan Shirley images I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot.
Pyramid. Similar to Mont Blanc, the Italian and Switzerland border is right on the Matterhorn. Now, Zermatt is really unique because they don't allow cars or motorized vehicles in the village. When I was there, I had to take a little train up. When I got to Zermatt, I had just a great time exploring the city. I was amused that there was a McDonald's there. One of the coolest places to go in Zermatt.
Coolest McDonald's I've ever been. I still remember it extremely clearly. It was in Austria, and it was later at night. And we just wanted some food. We walk in, it's just pristine. And you even had like an upper stair, a second floor, and a balcony, and just crazy.
Zermatt is the Stella Sea. News that there was a McDonald's there. One of the coolest places to go in Zermatt is the Stella Sea Lake, and it has one of the best views of Zermatt with its reflection on the lake. I mean, just such a magical location. All right, so after Zermatt, we're gonna head to our
How do you even climb that?
final location, which is back in the Italian Dolomites at Tre Cime di Lavaredo. Now, when I went to Dolomites, I spent 3 days here because there's just so much to explore. Now, Tre Cime di Lavaredo is home to the most iconic rock structure in the Dolomites. When I was there, I wanted to get a good vantage point to watch the sunrise over Tre Cime di Lavaredo. So me and my buddy George, we woke up around 5:30 a.m. and started hiking towards the vantage point. We got through some caves and walked through a pathway cut straight out of the mountain, and then we came to the spot where we had to climb up a sheer cliff. All we had was like a wire to hold on to. I mean, I definitely should have had some Via Ferrata gear, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I just sent it. Anyways, we made it to the top right when the sun started to rise over the mountain's peaks. I was out of breath because we just climbed a freaking...
Didn't have the gear, just sent it.
Sun started to rise over the mountain's peaks. I was out of breath because we just climbed a freaking mountain, but I was able to experience one of the most incredible sunrises of my life. I mean, I felt so alive, and moments like that is what traveling is all about. I will forever remember that moment. I mean, after the sun rose, I got some sketchy shots of me backflipping and sitting on the edge. People started to join us at the top of the mountain, and you can clearly see that we were unprepared. By a miracle, we made it safely down the mountain. Another one of my favorite places in Tre Cime is a place I like to call Mordor because it looks like a scene straight out of Lord of the Rings. I remember I was in a parking lot and I saw these mountains in the distance and I started hiking towards them. I was astonished by its jagged peaks. They were just so mystical and dreary, and the whole landscape reminded me of something from Lord of the Rings. I decided that I wanted to hike to the bottom of Mordor, so I followed the path down. It led me to this cave. I felt like I was walking into Shelob's lair.
Yeah.
Luckily, there were no giant spiders inside. I kept walking down and I couldn't believe the landscape. Everywhere I looked, I was surrounded by stunning mountains. The sketchiest part was when I got to this long skinny ladder down this steep cliffside. Felt like Sam and Frodo hiking down the stairs to Mordor. I made it down to the bottom and I was just overwhelmed by the epic.
I love the Lord of the Rings analogies too. They're perfect.
Hiking down the stairs to Mordor. I made it down to the bottom and I was just overwhelmed by the epicness of the area. Felt like I was in a fairy tale. I didn't have much daylight left, so I wasn't able to explore more. I really wanted to go climb up in those peaks, but I decided to walk back up the trail, and I was able to get one of the most iconic shots ever of me running along this path with the backdrop of the Mordor Mountains. In the moment, I didn't really appreciate how crazy that evening was, but looking back, that was hands down one of my favorite travel experiences. Who would have thought Mordor was in Italy? Alright, well that is it for my Alps top 10. If there are plenty places I miss, comment them down below. I love to hear where your favorite places are. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at shirley.films. It's Ryan, and we will see you next time.
So good. So good. Just amazing. And just blah. Insane. I have nothing else to say. These images are crazy. And I think this is the first time I actually saw the drone in the video, which is cool to see, because I always knew, all right, this is clearly a drone, but it was just so good that it almost seemed like professional stock footage. But no, it's they do it there, Ryan and whoever's with him. So good. It brought back some memories with my brother and dad driving through. And I definitely got some vertigo just sitting behind my desk here when he's like running up this thing here. Crazy. Hope you guys are all doing well. Love y'all. And I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye guys.